All right, hello, welcome to today's stream. We are going to be talking about Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus watercolors. When I started my watercolor journey, liquid watercolors are where I started. Not with this brand, was with a different brand. They're actually right there behind me. And yeah, I started with liquid watercolor. It's very different. It is very different from working with tube paint or dried half pans. It's already liquid. It's ready to go. It's pretty intense. You don't need as much as you think you do. So we're going to talk about that and a whole bunch more today. Before I dive right into the stream, I meant before we finished last week to give a shout out, and now we're late, but to give a very happy birthday to one of our moderators, the Art of Joseph Fincham. It was Joseph's birthday on Sunday. So
happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Joseph. I hope you had a great day. All right, today we're diving into Hydrus, and there are 36 colors in the range. 19 of those 36 are single pigment colors. Before the stream, I was playing with these a little bit. I do have one, I don't want to say complaint, but a little nerve got plucked. I noticed something and I thought, I don't know about this. We're going to get to that. So stay with me. 36 colors, 19 of them are single pigments. They are light fast. All of them, one is the highest on their scale of light fastness, and all of them are like a 1 or 1 to 2. I think there's a couple that are a 2, but nothing beyond that. So these are light fast. If you're going to paint and sell your artwork, this is something that you could definitely invest in and do that. The sets come in 2 sizes. They have half ounce and whole ounce bottles. I'm going to be showing you the 1 ounce bottles today, although I have both linked in the description below, and I have them linked by set. So when I show them to you today, if you like set 1 or set 2 or set 3, or if you just want all the sets like I did, they're all linked below. Now, I personally found the 1 ounce bottles to be the better value overall. So of course that is what I went with. And yeah, why don't we just dive in? I will show you the different sets. And then today I'm going to show you which colors are in each set. But today we're going to focus on set number 1. So everything that we're going to play with and paint and do is going to be from set number 1. So if you'd like to see a video on that focuses just on set 2 or set 3, if you're watching it live or if you're watching this on the replay, thanks for joining us. Just drop me a comment and let me know if you're really interested in, say set 2 or set 3, seeing those highlighted specifically for their colors. Let's go down to the desk and we'll dive in. Okay, so this is set 1, and let me just kind of move this to the side because of course I'm going to talk about bleed proof white again. I've mentioned that a couple times. I love bleed proof white. In fact, I just sent excuse me, I just sent Joseph a sample of that so that he could try it. And excuse me, I will show you in just a few moments why I like bleed proof white so much. And I think that white a lot of times can be a wasted color or a color we don't really need. There is a way that we can use it in this particular set, so I will show you that. But these are the colors. This is set number 1. And set number 1 starts off with Hansa Yellow Light, and this is PY3. So that is one of the single pigment colors. Next, we have gamboge, and that is PY65 and PR188. Then we have brilliant cadmium red, and that is PR188. So that's another single. Then comes deep red rose. That is PR269 and PR170. Followed up by quinacridone magenta, and that is PR122. So there's another single. Then we have phthalo green, which is PG7, another single pigment. And then comes phthalo blue, which is PB15. And then comes the thorn in my side. Like so much. Can we stir up some drama around Hydrus? Yes, we can. So here we have ultramarine. Ultramarine is PB29. They could easily have made that a single pigment color. Why they didn't, I don't know. Is it that it doesn't sit in liquid form so well? But I'm going to show you something when we get to the other sets that makes me think, again, why? Why did we not go with PB29, which is ultramarine blue, as a single pigment? Beautiful. No, they did not. For ultramarine blue, it is PB15. If you remember, that's phthalo blue. And PV, pigment violet, 19. And that's what they use to make ultramarine. I'm going to show you how it looks in just a few moments. So we'll just move right along for a moment, and we'll revisit that little, it's just scratching back there. And I was like as I was doing this before the stream, I said, why? Like, why? I don't know. I don't know why. Okay, so after ultramarine, that we're just kind of trying to let it go, we come to cobalt violet. And cobalt violet is PV19 and PB15. You're going to see a pattern here. And then we have Venetian brown, which is PY3, PR170, PR269, and PBK7. So there's a lot of colors that make that one up. Then we have carbon black, and that is just PBK7, which I believe is traditionally like an ivory black. So yeah, carbon black, just PBK7. And then there's titanium white, which is PW6. I don't know. I had hopes that maybe this, because it was titanium white, would be as opaque as, like, say, my bleed proof white, which it doesn't give a pigment on the bleed proof white. It just says that it contains zinc oxide. That's all that's in the warning that's on it. You know, like, don't ingest it. It has zinc oxide. Not that I think we would ingest it, but again, I don't want to know who caused that sign to have to be on there. PW6, titanium white. It's not really as opaque as I hoped, and I'll show you that in a moment. But I am going to use it to create a color that I think would be useful that is not actually, no, it's not anywhere. Nope, it's not anywhere in the set. So it would be a color that you could make that's different, that you're not getting in any of the other 24 or 36 total colors. Okay, so I have my little cheat sheet here. Let me show you set number 2. So each set comes, and that's going to glare. Sorry, I should have cut this off ahead of time. I have not even opened this yet. We'll take this off and remove the cover. Get rid of that glare. Okay. So set number 2. If you choose this set, let me see where we start. We start. Okay, right there. So they kind of go, they'll go around on my list. All right. So for set number 2, you have a choice of, you don't have a choice of, this is what comes in set number 2. This is not a choice. You can choose set number 2, but you can't choose your colors. So set number 2 has Hansa Deep Yellow, and that is PY3 and PR188. Then there's Yellow Ochre, which is PY42, so there's another single. You get Permanent Red, which is PR188 and PR170. Then we have Cobalt Blue. Cobalt Blue is PB15. You'll remember that from Phthalo Blue. PG7, which is Phthalo Green, and PV19. So that makes up our Cobalt. Then we have Indian Red, which is PR179, so another single there. And you guys know I love single pigment colors because that is going to, it's just going to make your mixes when you choose your palette be so much more cohesive and clean, and that gets into color theory and everything else. We can go there if you want to. Always drop me a comment and I can create videos that expand on that topic. But just know single pigment colors are very handy when you want to mix colors. So we had Indian Red, which was PR179. Then was Viridian Green, which is PY3 and PG7. So not a true Viridian, which is usually PG18. It's a mixed Viridian, but still, it looks like it'll be a lovely color. Then there is Burnt Sienna. Now, Burnt Sienna is PY83, PR269, PR170, PV19, and PB15. Lots of colors in that one too. The Alizarin Crimson, which is next up in this set, and that is PY83, PR170, PR269, and PR122. Then comes Sepia. Sepia. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I always have said sepia. And that is going to be, wait a minute. No, it's not either. Alizarin Crimson, it's not sepia. I don't even know where. Oh, yeah, it is. I'm like, where did I see that on my list? It's been a long day, folks. It's been a long day. My thumb was covering it. It's still there. If we can't laugh at ourselves, who can we laugh at? Okay, so sepia is PBR7. So, hey, it is sepia. Another single pigment. And then comes Payne's Gray. And Payne's Gray has PBK7, PB15, PBR170, and PBR269. I'm really curious to see how that Payne's Gray looks. All right. And then comes Sap Green, and that is PY3 and PB15, which there's no, I thought I saw that combination once already. So anyways, Sap Green is PY3 and PB15. So there are your colors in set 2. Now I've swatched set 1. I have not swatched out set 2. I want to save that for a separate video where we just highlight set 2. So last but not least comes set 3. Okay. So here is set 3. I think I'm going to move, well, I'm going to move set 2 out of the way so that we don't get too high up close to the camera. There we go. So there's set 3. Okay. And I'm going to go through again the colors and the pigments. So if you're not interested in that and you're watching this on the replay, you can skip ahead. And if you're with me live, sorry. I geek out over pigments. Okay. So we start with, let me turn it back around like I did before. This set number 3, I am really interested in diving deeper on because set number 3 has a lot. It is the set with the most single pigment colors contained within the set. So if that's something that interests you, listen up because this might be the set that you want to start with. So it starts with Hansa Yellow Medium, and that is PY97. Followed next is Chrome Yellow, which is PY65. Then comes Vermilion Hue, which is PR188. Then comes Carmine, which is PR170. Followed by Crimson Lake, which is PR269. So far, these are all single pigments. Then comes Quinacridone Violet, which is PV19. We've heard that in a few other colors. And then comes Red Oxide, and that is PR101. Followed by Raw Sienna, which is PBR7. And then Raw Umber, which is also PBR7. The difference is how they're treated to make the pigment darker before it's made into the paint. And so they will look very different even though it is the same pigment. And then comes Turquoise, which is PB15 and PG7. So that's phthalo blue and phthalo green. So I'd say phthalo turquoise, but they just call it turquoise. Then comes Blue Aqua, which is PG7 and PB15. So just the opposite. It has more green than blue, and this one has more blue than green. The last one in this set is Ultramarine Red Violet, and that is PV19. And the paper says PB16, but I'm thinking that's a typo. It's PB15. I would bet my life on it. Every blue, there comes my other little issue. Every blue that is in the Hydrus line has phthalo blue in it. They all contain PB15. If I want a nice warm blue, I prefer not to have phthalo in it. I prefer to have actual ultramarine, which is PB29. But there is no PB29 in this set. Everything is a mixture. The phthalo blue is the one pure blue single pigment color. And then everything else is a variation where they've kind of mixed some phthalo in. Was that for cost effectiveness? Maybe. Because, you know, they do carry the PV19 and the PB15. And that's what they use to make ultramarine. So it could just be the overall cost in you know, creating the colors in the line. PB29, actual ultramarine, would be light fast. So I don't know. I don't know why they chose that, but just so that you're aware, because it was something that kind of was scratching at the back of my mind there, like, why? And here's the other thing you'll see that sometimes, so this is the red oxide, which is PR101. And I ordered these, and you can already see the line. When they come to you, the pigment may have separated and settled upon shipping. I can tell you that it's not a problem. Just give them a really good shake and it will mix back through just fine. Not a problem. I did that with my set 1 already, but I just wanted to show you so that if you do order them and you get them in and you think, what is going on? Like if you see here, see how the pigment has settled on, that was the side it was leaning on, and that was the raw sienna, so that's PBR 7. And yeah, if I just really give those a shake, they definitely mix right back up. So those are your 3 sets. The only thing about set 3 is it has all of these single pigments, but it doesn't have a single pigment blue in it, which of course the only set with the single pigment blue is the first one with the phthalo blue, the PB15. But you have the single pigment yellows and the reds, you have the violet, you have the browns. I think if you only wanted to get 1 set, you can order these individually. Set 3 might be a great way to go, and then perhaps add phthalo blue separately. Because remember, it comes with the cobalt, not cobalt, the quinacridone violet, which is PB19. And the way that they made their ultramarine was, yeah, phthalo blue. You saw that brain just shut right off. Phthalo blue and the violet. So you could, for all intents and purposes, actually create your own. So yeah, Joseph, I think Joseph just got that from the links that are in the description, and that is in their set 3. So that's set 3. You can find these links in the description. Perhaps that set with a phthalo blue might be a great place to start. And again, I can do a video that focuses just on set 3 with maybe adding that one in. If you're interested in that, definitely drop me a comment. Let me know, because I know I'm going to be playing with these. So, but today let's focus on set 1. If we have time, we can dive deeper into some of the others. Just let me know what you most want to see if you are here with me live, and we'll do it. But for set number 1, let's just talk about what's on the desk for the moment. I'm going to take you to the full desk so we can kind of get a bigger picture. Okay, so set number 1, and I'm just going to take these so I can get this off of the desk. I'm going to set them up top, and actually I don't even need to pull them out because I already have them. Disregard. I'm going to set it aside. So these here I have set in my butcher's tray right here. So I've set the colors out the same way that they were here, going counterclockwise. I put them clockwise. Okay, so there are the colors. Now, let me just talk about this real quick, because you could use, if you get these watercolors, you're going to need something to put them on. Excuse me. You're definitely, because you're going to need to dilute these. Very rarely are you going to work full strength from these bottles. It is highly concentrated. So for these, you can either use a butcher's palette, or you could get something like this. Both of these are linked below. You can check the description, or if Joseph has those, it's going to be this is the 7. This is the one that's like 7 by 10.5. This is very cost effective. Very cost effective to get this one from Amazon. It's our alternatives. I highly recommend. If you've not checked into a butcher's tray, I use these even when I mix with colors from my half pans. So yeah, that's it. Just put it in the chat right there if you're following along the live chat. And then there's this guy from Meeden. This is another way that you could do this, because you can mix here and you could just drop some of your colors in your little squares. Now, if your colors dry on your palette, it doesn't matter. You can reactivate these without a problem, just like any other watercolor. So you don't have to worry about if you put out, like I put a dropper full in here and you don't use it all. And just to kind of give you an idea, the paint that I have here, this is only 5 drops of each color. 5 drops. And I've already swatched out all the colors. So, ooh, my camera just like went nuts with the autofocus there. So, yeah, either one of those would be great choices. So you got the butcher's tray, or let me just put this down here so it'll stop trying to focus on something for you. So the butcher's tray or that small palette. If you don't want your colors to travel and touch each other and mix and mingle, then I would say try your the Meeden palette, that little Meeden palette. Both are pretty reasonably priced. This is definitely right now, this is your best deal. And again, you have plenty of room. How often are you using all 12 colors at once? Not really. Yeah, these are bold. So this is taking my, I'm just going to kind of put my palette here. You're going to see my lights and stuff from above glaring in that. But like I said, this is 5 drops of each color. Okay. And taking my brush, and today I am again using my Mimik brushes. We're still using those. I haven't swapped yet. So just dipping, not even wetting my paper first, just taking my brush that was damp. So I'd rinse my brush out, take a piece of paper towel, I would dab it on the paper towel and then touch it to that paint and put it right on the paper. So that's how these were done, full strength. And then a couple of them, like the cobalt violet, I actually had to add water here to pull it out so you'd be able to see, because this color was so dark that it was almost, you almost couldn't even tell that it was violet. Yeah, so then Joseph just shared with you another tray. If this is smaller than you'd like, so see, this is about 8 inches here, but it's only about 7 at the base. If you like one that's a little bit larger than this, I also included a link to one that's just a tiny bit larger, kind of give you more mixing room. Okay. Would they work well in an airbrush? I bet. I would bet they would. Wouldn't that be something to see, like airbrush watercolor? That would be amazing. Yeah. So Starving Artist Collective said, must say I'm curious if these would work well in an airbrush. Me too. And let's see. Oh, okay. So there's great. So Starving shared that bought all 3 of these sets on impulse during COVID. I bought them a while ago and I have not had a chance to get to them. And today I was like, somebody said, oh, it's going to be really hot out there, you need to stay hydrated. And I thought hydrated and then Hydrus, like it came into my head and I was like, that's what we're doing today. So yeah, I bought these a while ago also, and I've just been so excited to use them. And yeah, so we'll see when they re-wet. If I have any issues, I will be sure to post that in our art group, and I will definitely let you guys know. So if you're not a member of the art group, I definitely invite you to come on and join us either on MeWe or on Facebook. You will find us there. We are Exploring Art on both of those locations. And yeah, we welcome you to come and join us. Okay, so our Hansa Yellow Light, Gamboge, the Brilliant Cad Red, the deep red rose. Let me just bring these a little closer for you. The quin magenta. There we have our phthalo green, our phthalo blue, and you see our ultramarine. It is slightly warmer, but I digress. I still wish I had PB 29, and then I don't think I'd have a single thing to fuss about when it comes to these colors. And then we have cobalt violet, which is beautiful. That's a beautiful purple. Phoenician brown, carbon black, and now let's look at the titanium white. Because I told you, and I keep repeating this, like, I don't know why they always put white in some of our palettes. I don't think it's necessary. If you want the color to be more pastel, you would just add more water. But that lightens up the color. We don't need white to lighten up the color. White, we can make pastel-like colors. But with an exception that I think we can pull off, and we're going to give that a try in a second. But here you see, here's the titanium white, the PW6. And I was curious if that was going to be as opaque as my bleed proof white. And you can see there, it absolutely is not. That was 3 layers of the titanium white and only 1 layer of my bleed proof white. Bleed proof white is like, it's just one of my favorites because unlike gouache, which is thick, bleed proof white is very close to watercolor's consistency. It's only slightly thicker, but it's not as thick as gouache. And so, yeah, I really appreciate when I want something that is opaque white, I'm going to reach for Dr. Paige Martin's bleed proof white. I have tried the Copic opaque white before, and I don't care for it. Like, I like this. This is definitely my favorite. So if I'm not using gouache, I'm using this. And I have like a couple small containers that I will put like in my travel bag. So I have this on the go. I just sent Joseph a small container of this to try because he said he had ordered gouache. But I thought, that would give him a chance to compare it as well and somebody else to give us another opinion. So hopefully Joseph will have a chance to try that before long and tell us what he thinks. But as far as my opinion goes, bleed proof white is definitely the way to go. If you want an opaque white for highlights, and as long as your layer underneath is dry, then it won't bleed through. If your under layer is wet, it will mix. So if the layer that's currently there is completely dry, then bleed proof white, the color will not bleed through it. It will stay bright white, but it has to be completely dry. So just understand, know that. Okay, so Cat's Art Picks. And let me just take a moment to say hello to everybody. And we have a lot of people watching with us today. I've seen Starving Artist Collective and D-Lynn Creative Arts. Hi to, excuse me, Cat's Art Picks and Teresa. Of course, Joseph and Rob. Thank you all for joining me. If you're watching and you haven't said hi yet, drop a hi in the comments. Let us know you're here. We love, if you haven't chatted with us before, we love to chat with new people. Okay. One of the things, I'm going to grab a piece of paper. One of the things I think you could do with this, I have seen, there is no cerulean blue. So of the 36 colors, cerulean blue is not one of them. Now, cerulean blue I have seen be made with PB15 and PW6, which is titanium white and phthalo blue. We have phthalo blue and we have titanium white in this set, so let's do a little mix of the two together and see what kind of cerulean we can come up with. And today I am using the the Bee watercolor paper. The Bee inspired paper, which is what this one is the cellulose paper. That one you're going to find link below. It's going to take you to Walmart. It's the only place I can find it. You can order it online. You can find it in your local store. Sometimes it's sold out. Every time I go, it's sold out, but they still have it there and they sell it. And it's probably because it is a fantastic price for what you get. And if I had to choose between like the Canson XL watercolor paper and the Bee inspired paper, it's going to be the Bee inspired paper every day. I think it's a better value and I like the paper better. Just my opinion. We don't have to agree on that. It's okay. So the other paper, if I use, is also the Bee paper, but if I use one of my blocks here that I've made, this is the Bee 100% cotton paper. And that's what Joseph just shared a link to in the chat if you are watching live or following the live chat from the replay. All right, so cerulean blue, we got phthalo blue, and I don't want to contaminate that white, although I don't know what else I'm going to use it for, right? And white. So let's just see. Look at that. So I think we can definitely mix up a nice cerulean blue, and we'll look at that in comparison to just the phthalo. You see that phthalo? I'm going to bring more water into that. You see how it's like very, very bold. So there's that. It does not take much at all for these when you're using this paint. You definitely, less is more. And I learned that real fast. Like I said, when I started my watercolor journey, somebody had, a family member said, oh, you should try watercolor. And I was like, I don't paint in watercolor. I only paint in acrylics. So, not being snobby to watercolor, it scared me to death. If we're being honest, it scared me to death. Isn't that it? Just, they're both like really pretty blues. Look at that. I mean, it is a gorgeous phthalo blue, and it is PB15. I love it. No PB29. So, anyways, back to the beginning. So yeah, and it was, I was encouraged to try the watercolor, and I thought, well, all right, but what am I gonna do? The first thing I tried was liquid watercolors, and this, as I said, they're like right here behind me. There's like three rows of colors in that are just little bottles of liquid watercolor, and those are from Dandelion Paint Company. And for those who aren't familiar, Dandelion Paint Co. is Sarah Cray, the artist that started Let's Make Art. They make those colors. So that's where I started. I thought, you know what? I'm going to dive into a watercolor art box. It'll send me stuff. It'll give me instruction. I'm going to try that to start. And that's where I got my start with watercolor. And I was using liquid watercolors. In fact, I snagged, because Lou saves like all the cards that I paint for him. And I went into his stash and I found it. This guy here is of a rainbow trout, and I painted this as a card for him. Gosh, I don't even think I had the year on here. I wasn't dating like years. So this was like maybe 2019, I would say. It's probably, wow, it's been 4 years. It's been 4 years since I started my journey in watercolor. So it was that little rainbow trout that's what I painted, and that was done with liquid watercolor. I quickly learned that you don't need to, like, you would not want to take your brush. Like, you've seen me go into a half pan of watercolor, and I'll just take my brush and like dive right into that, go to the paper. I don't necessarily need to do that when it's liquid watercolor because there's so much color there. It is so strong. And one of the things I wanted to see, I'm going to set this aside. So those are the colors from set one. I'll give you one more look at those. Those are the colors in set one, if set one is something that interests you. It does look like it would have a nice split primary set, with the caveat that I'm going to say that I'm still not a fan, that it's not PB29 for ultramarine blue. But other than that, I think you could make some beautiful mixes with this set because you definitely have, you know, like more warm and cool yellow, red, almost blue. Not going there, I promise. We'll stop talking about it. So I think set number one would also be a nice set to have. But let's see how these are. I said I don't think you would need a lot of, you don't need a lot of this color when you're painting with them. Let me show you why I'm saying this, what I mean. I'm going to take just the water and I'm going to go, now this paper that I'm on is about 4 inches wide. Okay. Oh, really? So, Starving Artist Collective shared that Lindsay, and she's speaking of Lindsay, over at the Frugal Crafter channel. Lindsay is a friend of mine. She is a fellow Mainer, and says she showed a small company making the first set of these liquid colors into a portable dry palette for plein air use. That is interesting. I'll have to go look that up and check it out. So putting the water across the width, I am then just going to, actually I'm going to first dab my brush. Okay, so not a lot of water in my brush at all. And I'm just going to touch into the edge of this, and I'm going to come here at the beginning and lay that down. I want to see how far are these colors going to travel. I'm not going to go further than that, just touching right here at the beginning for each color. We're going to see how far it will get across the page. You guys know, like some of the core colors, it would be already be across the page. Which, I mean, I say that often, but I am not being negative about core. I love that about core color. So maybe I should just like interject that there. I don't think that's a bad thing. I like when colors take off. Okay, so there's the water. Next, we're going to dip into, I moved my thing so I can't see. This is my gamboge. So the first one was our Hansa Yellow Light, and then this is going to be gamboge. So again, I'm just going to drop it in the beginning. And let's see where how much they take off. And I am barely touching, if you watch when I pick the color up, I am barely touching the, hopefully I'll have enough room to do all of these. If not, I have an extra piece of paper. Your screen is blurry. Is anybody else blurry? Let me know. I know that was happening to, during Lisa's stream last night, people were having problems with it being blurry. Oh yeah, the whoosh. Oh, yes, I agree. Starving Artist Collector says, core is my so much my favorite. The whooshiness is so satisfying, isn't it though? They just take off and they're wonderful. Okay, so see, I'm just barely touching the tip into the color. And we're just gonna, oh, look at that one. Come right in here and drop that in there. Just a tiny bit extra of that. It did not feel like I had much on that. I'm going to see how that takes off. So, yeah, maybe reload. That might help. All right, so that was our brilliant CAD red. Next up is the deep red rose. And there it goes. So some definitely take off a lot faster than others. Look at that one. That's gorgeous. So that is the deep red rose, which is PR 269 and PR 170. That's good to know. And doing these kind of things with your colors is really good to know, because if you're trying to decide on a red that you want and you want to put that red down and you need it in one location and you want it to stay in that location, it's good to know if you have a choice between a red that you know travels or one that you know stays put. That might influence your decision. So it's good to know the the difference between them. So next is our Quin Magenta. Drop that one in, and there it goes. That quinacridone is taking off. Not as fast or as far yet at this point as the deep red rose, but certainly on its way. All right, then we have reloading fixate. Okay, perfect. See, that was happening to me last night too when I was watching YouTube during Lisa over at Lock Cree Fine Art during her stream. It was acting up a little bit. I've had that happen a few times. So next we have phthalo green. And the color that looks much more like grass green, like almost neon like on my monitor. I'm not sure how it's coming across to you guys, but so that one didn't travel as far. And then we have, here comes our phthalo blue, the blue that makes all other blues. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to bring that up again, didn't I? Okay, so phthalo blue. And away it goes. I think I had a little bit more blue on my brush that time than I did before, and I forgot to dab my brush before going into the color. So that one might be traveling a little further than it might otherwise have. That may have been operator error there. All right, next up we have the I Want to Really Be Ultramarine Blue. Okay. It's about 90 degrees here today. After ultramarine comes cobalt violet. Ooh, look at that one go. There's still a lot of cobalt violet on my brush. A lot. See there. That took off. So that is the cobalt violet. And then we have, I'm not going to do the white because you're not going to see it. So we're going to do Venetian brown. And then after we will do our carbon black. And this test will be done. Some of mine are actually starting to dry a little bit on my palette. I put them out. I probably put them out about 130 on this palette. All right, and last, we have our carbon black. And that worked out perfect. And and away it goes. That one takes off too. So you definitely see there are some colors that want to move more than others. So if you were painting with these, again, that is going to be valuable information, because if I have a wet and wet wash, I want to know how far are my colors going to travel. When I did the watermelon last week, when I was painting with the Turner, knowing that this red's going to travel a lot further than the green, like I'm just going to touch that green in. Then when I was painting my red, it would have traveled a lot further. And you can kind of gauge if you want your colors to come together and kind of blend on their own, without that red and green, making a muddy brown. If I can put them down so that they reach out in that wet wash and just kind of kiss each other, I'm not going to get such a muddy color. So I'm not going to have to paint over that area, and that's not going to mix the two together. They're just going to spread and kind of blend on that page, if that makes sense. So I'm going to let these sit. Now I did do a test. It is, I'd say it's pretty dry. So I threw some salt on some because, I like to know what is salt going to do. And I used the phthalo blue, the cobalt violet, and the quinacridone magenta with this salt. The salt is, it is definitely, let me brush that off. It is all dry. It's all brushing off very easily. So interesting, with the quinacridone magenta, which is PR122, look at the effects that you get. It like pulled the pigment towards the area where the salt and just kind of deposited it there, but left a little bit of this, like, I don't even want to, it's like crystallization, but it's not. It left some very unique marks. Now with where I had the cobalt violet, where there was more pigment, I got some white spots, but where it was lighter, it pulled that in and gave me darker spots. Something like that. I'd be curious to see how that reacted with, say, the Venetian brown. That might help me if I was painting like beach sand. If the lighter color, if I put salt down, pulls the pigment and leaves me deposits of color like this, that would be a nice natural way that you could get that look to the sand, where it's like just darker, grains of sand, darker grains of color. So here is the phthalo blue. It kind of did the same thing. Not really surprising, because phthalo blue is in the cobalt violet, because it is PV19 and PB15. So I would have to do salt on like all the colors, and I probably will do that. I'm not going to make you watch me swatch them all again and sprinkle salt in and then have to wait for them to dry. But I could certainly do the colors. If you're interested, drop me a comment, because I will do them, and then I will share them over on my Clark Fine Art pages on both MeWe and Facebook. I like to see what salt does, because some blues, you can get this gorgeous crystalline structure where it just pulls all the color. When you brush the salt away, nothing's left behind, and it just looks like beautiful snowflakes falling, or something like that. So there, let's see our colors. It's really hard to see these, but the yellow really did. There's some pale yellow that's traveled almost all the way down. The gamboge as well, we have color traveling all the way. Some of these are still wet, but I think they're about done traveling. Our brilliant cadmium red, I can see the red all the way out to here. And that's very faint. It's very faint. But this also is going to tell me that if I mix a lot of water with just a little bit of my pigment, I can make a really pale color like that. Same here with the deep red rose. and our Quin Magenta. I think Cobalt Violet definitely won the race. Like, it went the furthest. And our runner-up, it's almost a tie between the Phthalo Blue and the Deep Red Rose. But yeah, these are interesting. So a lot of these colors, though, do stay pretty much like where you put them. There was a little bit of travel, but the biggest concentration of color kind of stayed close to where I put it. So it didn't travel too far. And I think that is definitely beneficial when you're first starting out with watercolor, because you might have a wet wash. You're not sure how far that color is going to go. And if all of a sudden that color takes off on you, it can quickly ruin a painting. And I say ruin a painting with a caveat. Yes, your painting may not now look like what you wanted it to look like, but that painting session isn't necessarily ruined because you've learned something. And I think the things like that are so important. I was talking to Cat's Art Picks just yesterday. We were talking about something like that, where I love to sit down sometimes with the mindset, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to paint something really awful. And it's okay, right? Like, it's okay if you sit down and you paint something and it doesn't turn out the way you hoped or the way you expected. And that's fine, because you're going to learn something. And so, again, I've said that also quite a few times. If it's not a masterpiece, it's a learning piece. And take away everything you can from those moments, and don't let it get you discouraged and you think, oh, I can't do this because, you know, look at what happened. And that is definitely the best way to learn. That's the best way for me to learn, because when I started painting with the liquid watercolors, it definitely it was a challenge. And I almost quit. I was like, this is not for me. And then I found half pans and tubes and all the other wonderfulness of watercolor. I want to test this out. I'm just gonna throw down some water. We're just gonna throw some paint at this real quick and see. I want to take my Venetian brown, and I'm going to come right in here. I'm like trying to see where the edge of my water is, because I would definitely want it to be darker there. I'm going to tip this because I want it to flow down my paper. I'm going to put that all the way down, because, as I said before, I was really curious with this Venetian brown if I wanted it to make sand for a beach. I'm putting in more than maybe I would want to. And you see, when I mix on my palette, you can see that I just barely grab that edge, barely touch the color, and mix it out here so that I see how strong my color is going to be before I go into my painting. And anytime I pick up fresh color, like if I come back in and pick up fresh color, you'll always see me go back to my darker areas so that I know, because if I deposit too much color there, that's a dark area. It's not going to be like, oh no, I've just ruined it because I put this big dark streak here that I can't get out. I don't have to worry about that because I started where it was dark. So I have my salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle some salt on here. I just want to see if we're going to get that texture. And I'm going to let that be. I'm going to let that dry for a little bit too. I'll come back in and I'll paint some waves for you later. But I'm just going to set that aside. One of the other things that I think is important to know is, can we lift these colors? So let's go back to the swatch sheet that I did earlier. This is definitely completely dry. I had hit this with the heat tool. And it's been setting for a couple hours now. So I'm going to grab my number 6 round. And that was the other thing. When I started, I kid you not, they're still right here. I'm just turning my round of brushes here that are all, well, they were here. I know they're here. I know that they are here somewhere. But when I started, the point is that when I started with watercolor, again, liquid watercolors. Yep. So they were liquid watercolors. They weren't these two. I do have them. I was hoping I could grab them. But I started with a number 6 round and a number 2 round. That was all I had. Those were my first 2 brushes. I highly do not recommend you start there. Like, I definitely highly do not recommend. They're great. A 6 round and a 2 round are nice colors to have. I mean, nice colors, nice size brushes to have. But definitely, without a doubt, make sure, like, if I could only get 3 brushes, well, these are not the 3 brushes I would get. No, they would not. I wouldn't even bother with a 2 because anything I can do with this 2, I can do with that 6. But you know what? I didn't feel like I could when I first started. And I think that's important to say that too. Like, especially if you were an acrylic painter coming to watercolor, that was like a really big, such a big learning curve. When I started, I was like, I wanted to paint watercolor like I painted acrylic and couldn't get, like, why can't I do this? Because it doesn't work that way. First of all, they're completely different. Watercolor has a mind of its own. It doesn't care what you want to do. It cares what it wants to do. And you can learn to control it to an extent, but even then, it still has a mind of its own. But a number 12 round, and I would even go bigger than this, but a number 12 round and a number 6, those are 2 great brushes to start with. And, you know, maybe you get like this guy, and you can purchase these separately. That's like a 3/4 inch oval wash. That's going to come to a nice point when I get that wet. And just to show you, because like this is, you know, this is all dry and fluffy right now, and you see it's kind of, and it's no silver black velvet brush. However, let me definitely show you. I definitely still recommend, and I'll, mind you, you could probably get a set of these for what the one silver black velvet that is the equivalent size of this one would cost you. So look at that point. It definitely comes to a nice point. If you could only have 3 brushes for watercolor, start here. Like, that's all you really, really need. This can do all your big washes in your background. You can also get some nice points, some wonderful petals on flowers. Your 12 round, it's going to do a lot of the other big work. And then if you need some fine details, a 6 round that will hold a nice point. And again, this one is dry. So let me just get that wet so you can see once it is wet, that gets a point. It gets a lovely point. There's nothing that I can do with this that I can't do with that. Like, it holds that point. It holds its points well. So definitely recommend having 3 brushes like that to start if you're considering starting to dip your toes into watercolor. We're going to see, back on track, lifting. Can we lift these colors? How will they lift? One way to find out is I've showed you, it's right here. Like, if you want to lift a neat line, you can take like an eraser shield and you can just set that on there. I could use like a piece of magic eraser and lift it out. But let's just go like this. And I'm just going to go through, I'm taking my wet brush and I'm just painting over the color a few times. And then I'm going to try to lift that out. And this is definitely not lifting so well. Yes, yes. And it's definitely one I have shared before, Starving Artist Collective. And I can drop a link to that one in my description after the stream. The Silver Black Velvet does have a set that comes. That's how I got mine. That is what got me started. That exact set that you're talking about. It comes with a 3/4. It comes with the size 8, which is that. And I believe it comes with the, yeah, I believe it does come with the 4, which is this guy. Those. You can get that set. You buy that one set, and I fell in love with the brushes. You're not going to need many more brushes than that for anything. You could certainly do a lot of learning and a lot of painting with just those 3 brushes and not have anything else. So the deep red rose definitely does not lift out very well. So I would say that is a staining color. I was curious to see, are these all going to be staining colors? That's not hardly lifting at all. So if they are very staining, you know, that's something that could pose a challenge to somebody who's just starting. Because if you make a mistake, it is nice to be able to lift it out. And mind you, I waited for these to be dry and then come back through to want to try to lift them. As far as will they lift well when they are, if they're still wet, if you like make a mistake and you immediately want to pull that color back off of your paper, I don't know. We can certainly test a couple and find out. Well, these look quite staining. I mean, so far every one that I've tried is definitely, I mean, they lift slightly, but they're still staining. You see, I can lift it, but the color's still there. So you're not going to get that back to white paper. I'm just going to let that set for a moment and see if that helps. I'm going to go the opposite way because most of the cobalt violet is over here. All right, let's try to lift that out. Yeah, it's just not. So definitely staining colors. Okay, let's see. I'm going back to my size 12. I'm going to grab this paper again. Let's just give a couple of those a try. So there's our quinacridone magenta. And you see how red it looks here? If I actually take, that was full strength, but if I actually take and pull that color out, you see it's a much lighter version. Straight from the bottle, slightly diluted, very much diluted. All right, let's see. Can we lift some of that out? See, we can lift when it's wet. We can lift when it's wet. Once it dries, it does not want to lift very well. So that is also really good to know. I'm wondering if it's YouTube, because what I'm seeing looks, I'm not seeing anything blurry on my end. I'm wondering if it is something that's up with YouTube. let's look at, see, that was dry and I just reactivated. Can't see it right there. That was dry and I just reactivated that. Now see, I can mix this with water, pull a little bit out and mix near it. And I can get like, there's that cobalt violet. So you see there, much better, you know, much lighter version. You definitely, these are going to last a long time. If I come in with the darker, you don't need to go, like, I would not full brush into that really dark, but like if I grabbed a lot of that, you see that's almost black. It's almost black. All right, while that's on my brush, see how dark it is? It's so dark. So one thing about the liquid watercolors is a little goes a long way. And we can move that. Now let's let that set for a second. I'm going to try to lift that out while it's still damp. So I'm just drying my brush off so that my brush becomes thirsty. And I'm going to lift that color. Lift. Okay. So you can lift. I mean, there is some staining. There is a little bit of staining, but if I do it right away, I can get it. I can lift that out of there. I think if I splattered and got like a little spot where I didn't want it, I would imagine that I could come in with like, let me just show you, like every now and then you'll be painting and a spot will happen, right? If I take a piece of my magic eraser, and I shared the magic eraser with you guys last week, I dip that in water and I squeeze that out. I just want it damp, not soaking. And then I could come back in here and just kind of lift. Again, I've already determined that this particular paper does not like to be magically erased. But you see the dot, I mean, the dot is gone. If I was using cotton paper, probably would have no issues at all. In fact, I do have the cotton version of the bee paper, so we'll give it something to try on that. But you see, I was able to lift that dot out just pretty much completely. I mean, it made a muss of my paper. All right. If there's something else that you guys want to see or want me to try with these colors because they have been of interest to you, drop me a comment, let me know, and then I can, we can give that a try before we are done today. I haven't tried it on the cotton paper yet, and I do want to give them a go on that. So I'll probably do something fun and simple like I did last week. Ooh, actually, I have an idea. I have an idea for I want the other one. This is the first sheet, so I know my edges. I just made, this is a pad of the B 100% cotton watercolor paper. This is the 140 pound, it's 6x9, 140 pound, 300 GSM B watercolor paper. This is 100% cotton. This is a pad. They do not come in pads. They come in single sheets. The link in the description below is going to get you 50 single sheets. If you stay tuned to the channel on Monday, it'll be a little while before Joseph streams. Joseph usually streams same time I do, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time. If you are here and you haven't caught one of Joseph's streams, check that out on Monday. His link is in the description, as is Tara, our other moderator who's supposed to be here but not here yet. Okay, Laura Gonzalez Art. No, B does not have pads now. However, this is what I was starting to say. If you guys click that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because on Monday, I am going to share the video with how I got B watercolor pads. And definitely want to stay tuned for that. So this is the 140 pound, 100% cotton. And I want to try something fun. I want to try something fun with this. We're going to play, because this is definitely something like spontaneous that you can do with liquid watercolors. And you see here, just while we're waiting, our beach sand is getting some texture. So we are going to let that set. We'll come back and we'll paint in some waves before we're done. All right, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. I'm going to take, I should have some pieces on my desk here of an old cut up card, an old cut up Visa card. And it doesn't matter. You could also use, I've used these, which I got at the Dollar Tree, guys. These are actually for if you have a Cricut and you were applying like a vinyl or something like that and trying to transfer something, you would use these for that. I like to use them in artwork. So I can use either pieces of an old card and yes, my new book press. I finally have gotten to use it. So those of you don't know, but stay tuned on Monday, because I'm going to share it all with you. And Lou had made me a book press and I absolutely love it. I can give you a sneak peek, like, just wait till Monday. I'm creating one. I've got one in the press right now that I am working on that I cannot wait to try. And I'm going to tell you, I tell you about that on Monday, but it's still in the press. It's not done yet. All right. So we're going to take our cards, or I'll just use this. I might grab some of the card. It doesn't matter. And let's just, I'm going to dip into, it's fall. It's not fall yet. I know summer carries on till like around the 20th of September. So show it. You guys are like, sneak peeks. Show it. It happens to be sitting right next to me. Let me go full desk. Okay. This is my book press, right? And inside this book press, I can turn this around, right? So it's upside down now. But inside this book press, I am making something with some arch paper. Yes. So I can't wait. Can't wait for that to be done. I just have 2 sides left to go. All right. Laura says, no girl, it's fall. Go for it. All right. Some people really love summer. I don't want to rush their summer away. Just because I personally love fall and winter. You know, I don't want to take other people's fun away. Okay. So I'm going to let me turn this, because we got some fall color. I'm going with my reds here, right? And I'm just going to take these. I'm just dabbing into these colors. I'm just going to dab some of that on my paper. And actually, I'm going to take the smaller one, just so that I can get into these colors a little bit better. I definitely am wiping my card off. I'm gonna grab. I've like contaminated my gambos with some of that red. All right, we need some yellow. Yeah, if we're going to fall starving, our artist collective, who is in Australia, is getting ready to head into spring, which you're probably just loving it. Okay, you ready? So we've just dabbed into some colors there and dabbed them on our paper. Let's just come in with, I have a very wet 3/4 inch oval wash, very wet. And I'm just going to pop down some color up here. And now, as I come through, we're just going to kind of make it connect and let it do what it does. Rinsing my brush out. Let's just kind of let it do. Let it be. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of come up and touch every now and again. Leave some white space. I think these are so much fun. Right? I don't need to come all the way to my edge. This is my first sheet on this pad that I made. So there may be a little bit of glue at the edge. So I would want to paint something on the first go round that was didn't go all the way to my border, if you would, or that I had taped off a border. Look at that. It's like, boom. Spontaneous fall landscape. Steve Mitchell, if you're watching. Hey, nobody does spontaneous like Steve Mitchell. I absolutely love it. If you guys have not seen Steve Mitchell of the Mind of Watercolor do one of his spontaneous landscapes, just type it into YouTube after. Search Steve Mitchell spontaneous landscape and it will blow your mind. The man is so talented. Okay. So we can do all kinds of stuff with that, right? What if we give us spritz of water? Where will it go? What will it do? I can definitely, okay, now I'm just getting carried away with the water. Oh my gosh, he is, Laura. I agree. He is so skilled. He's amazing. Look at this. Look at how that's just kind of pulling out now. That must have been when I sprayed. I looked away and I looked back. I was like, ooh, look at that. Like, wow. All right, I'm trying to, prevent my gambos from getting completely contaminated, but that's a beautiful orange. Let's just drop some more in. Drop some more in, see what happens. Right. Let it be, let it go. Look at that. I think we need some more red down there. Now, Steve would be able to turn this into something that looks like he, meticulously painted every bit of this to be this. Whereas I'm just like, yeah, we'll throw it here. Let's see what we get. And you can do things like this and just kind of play with them. Let them move. Let them do their thing. And then come back, and that's when you just start, once it dries, that's what he'll say. He's like, let it dry. And then he'll come back to it. And he'll just start picking out things that he sees. And before you know it, you've got this gorgeous landscape. Oh, so Kat's art picks. You hadn't seen it before? Oh my gosh. You have got to watch him do a spontaneous, he's got some gorgeous spontaneous landscapes. Love it. I took one of his classes once for spontaneous landscapes. Yeah. it was fun. There were no regrets. I learned a lot. And well, let's just say that mine didn't look quite like his. But his are beautiful. One day, we all have goals, right? And I'm just moving around. There was a lot of water there, and I just didn't like how that was coming down, so just kind of moved it around. Yeah, even see, yeah, Joseph says he does very interesting work. He does. I'm like, hats off to him. Definitely check him out if you have not. If I just said a channel that you actually haven't heard of before, yeah, definitely check that out. Okay, so that's fun. I would let this dry, and then I would come back through and put in maybe some trunks and find some trees. Maybe with some of my bleed proof white and bring it down so that I have like birch trees. Birch trees definitely turn a beautiful golden, yellow, orange. At least mine do here in my yard. I have some white paper birches, and those are like one of my favorite trees. So yeah, speaking of paper birches, you can do some beautiful paper birches with a card too. Let me grab my other. We've done that before. And I think these would be great for that. Let's give it a try. Why not? What time do we have? Yeah, we got plenty of time. Again, if there's something you guys would like me to try, just drop it in the comments. Let me know. So I'm going to take my water. I'm going to grab another water. I think I have clean, yeah, I have clean water back here. My other water was getting a bit dirty. I've seen these done so many ways. One of the things you can do is I can paint out a birch tree. Or a tree. I can paint out like where a tree trunk is going to go. Let me show you the different ways. Let's just do it. Show you as I tell you. So I can, okay, that just shed a hair. I think it's the first time I've ever seen a hair come off that brush. I'm going to put in a trunk. Here's my beautiful birch tree. If you guys can see that, that's going to be my birch tree. Here we go. Let that just kind of soak in. This is the 90 pound. This pad here is the 90 pound B cotton watercolor paper. So it is still cotton, 100% cotton, but it's only 90 pounds. I find that when I make blocks out of these, I don't have to worry about them buckling. I can throw all kinds of water at it. And I did this one. I just did this on the 90 pound. This is just 90 pound. This one is not real thick, but it was the first thing I painted that was on this block. I just shared that with my channel, on my channel the other day. And yeah, that was Tuesday's video, was making this. It was on that 90 pound. I threw a lot of water at that and it stood up really well. So making the blocks. Okay, I'm going to, here's my black. So I'm just going to take my card and I'm going to dip it into my black. And I'm going to go the long way. I'm just kind of tapping that in there. And on the edge, I'm just going to kind of touch that. Now this is really wet still. And I'm going to come back the other way. I'm just looking where the edge of my so you can do them this way. And that was with it wet to start with, right? And if I want to, let me use the skinny end. Right. It's really dark. You don't usually have birch tree that dark, but I can let that dry. I can come back with the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White and I could take away whatever I didn't want there. Or not pre-wetting this, I could just dip my card right in some of the black and just come down the paper. Again, now I'm just going to do the other side. You hear, I'm like, really, I'm scraping across, and then I have a birch tree. So there's many different ways you can do them, but doing them with a card, that's one way. My little tool I had here, I might still have some other color on it, but that's all right. I love how this one does it. I get some really like more organic when I think of a birch tree. Right? And you can just, if you don't want to work backwards, flip it over. I love the marks that this one makes. There we have some birch trees. And I could come back. I'm making a mess, a big old mess. Speaking of Patreon, we are a week from tomorrow will be our next live hangout studio time on Zoom. I know that we have talked about that, and we are actually going to do our first of 2 Christmas card making sessions. And there's a few of us that like to paint Christmas cards. And so, yeah, that's what we are going to be doing a week from Friday. And it is available to Friday will be both monthly and quarterly. Attend that one. So if that is something that you are interested in, do check out my Patreon. We have a ton of fun. So we just we get together on Zoom, and you can either chat by texting, or if you want to share and allow like your microphone to be connected and talk, you can talk, or you can even set up your camera and do video and share what you're working on. We love seeing what everybody's doing. I'm always sharing my desk. Now see, some of that black is wanting to go into that yellow there, so I'd have to be careful with that. I'm just throwing in some colors, because why not? Like, you know, birch trees may not be all the reds and whatever, but my birch trees here are. You could also, like, if you wanted branches coming off of that, you could just pop in a branch. As easy as you did these, you can do your branches just the same. Right? Just throw in. Now I could have put in my color first, you know, and come in with some trees versus trying to like negatively paint around them. I'm not getting very great leaves. I prefer painting evergreen trees. But I have been practicing regular trees because it's the only way we're going to get better at them is to practice. I lost my towel. Let's throw in some red. Again, I'm sure that Birch trees aren't normally reds and yellows and oranges, but my tree is right now. And it's fine. You get the point. That's an easy way to do birch trees. Let's take a jump back and look. Look at how that has spread out and is drying. And I found when I leave them attached to my block, they do dry pretty flat. I mean, this one, like I said, this was 90 pound paper. And look at, like, it has a slight curve to it. Of course, I've had it standing on its side, but it dried so flat. I just left it on the block and I threw a lot of water at that. And it dried really flat. So if that's something that interests you, they do work out well when you make blocks out of them. Let's take this. We're dry now. I'm going to brush my salt off and let's see what we get. So it definitely could work for some texture in our sand, for sure. We could do that and get away with, you know, some speckling. I would probably put more salt down if I did it again and really sprinkle it all over now that I know how it pulls. Let's just, I'm going to grab my, turn this around so you guys can see it. My clears my throat, ultramarine blue. I feel like it should have air quotes there. Ultramarine. I just don't understand it. But I promised I was not going to keep talking about it, so I won't. All right, let's see. Let's just put in a horizon. This is a good way to show you, for those of you, well, sorry, I did not mean to spin it that much. For those of you who are still here watching with me, let me give you a little tip. You want a nice horizon line. Take a ruler. I'm going to hold that ruler at an angle. I'm going to set my brush on the edge of the ruler, and I'm going to come in so my ruler is right. I know my ruler's nice and straight. My ruler's nice and straight on my paper. I can just tip that ruler up at about a 45-degree angle, come in and set my brush there. And now I can just run my brush down my ruler. Oops, as I moved my brush. Run my brush down my ruler. And I can get a nice straight horizon line. I'm just going to wet this. And now that my brush is almost dry, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to use that to my advantage. Do some dry brush. You see, my paper is quite curled right now. And this doesn't happen to me when I turn them into blocks. Wow. I'm just reading your comments starving about. I heard Lisa say last night that they were having problems with between Patreon um, with folks that are in Australia. That's crazy. And I think my lowest tier is $5. I have a 5, a 10, and a 20. I don't think I have a $3 anymore because $3 nobody ever was on it, and I just did away with the $3. I'm just kind of leaving where I dry brushed right there. I'm just leaving it so that it looks like that's a wave crashing. But yeah, I don't know what the conversion is between, the US dollar to the Australian dollar, but that seems like a big jump. Hello, Tara Giblin. You know me, when all else fails, right? I'm going to go to like water, seascape, or look at that. Look at that. Real quick, simple seascape. We need some sky though, right? We need some sky. Let's use our cerulean blue that we made with the phthalo blue and titanium white. I'm actually going to grab some more of this, which is like wanting to be dry, and grab some of this phthalo. That's ultramarine. It's got phthalo blue in it. That's okay. There we go. We're just gonna go with that. And I'm gonna have it be darker up here. Oops. You can see on my desk, it's got that titanium white, so it is definitely showing up. I'm just gonna wet this right down to my horizon line. I'm just working that edge because I let it set there, so it was starting to become a hard edge, and I don't want a hard edge in the middle of my sky. How did the boys do, Tara? Tara's son had a match today. We would say soccer. They say football. Right? Is that the one that I'm thinking of? There we go. There's our sky. Good enough. That's all we need. All right, I'm going to wipe this mess. I'm going to move this up and wipe this mess off my desk. And we actually managed to get a little painting in today. I will dry this and I will show you that Dr. P.H. Martin Bleed Proof White, how you can come back in and add that. I'm going to mute you for a moment so that I don't blast your eardrums with the dryer. Oh. All right. Let me just, that was kind of folded. But look at the, I definitely like the texture you could get on the sand by adding the salt to that. So salt definitely can have an effect on these watercolors. And yeah, let's talk about the overall, what we took away from today. You don't need a lot. A little will go a long way. Everything I did today, this was only 5 drops of each color on my butcher's tray. And I will be using these for quite some time. If I put that in my meet-in palette, which ran away on me. If I were to put those in my meet-in palette, I would just put them in the wells so I could grab a little bit and mix out here the colors that I needed. And I think it would be a lot easier to mix that way. But I do, like I said, I do love the butcher's palette. You saw when I got a little, crazy with the card. I got a little bit of red in with my gamboge. It's fine. So we did our how to make birch trees with our card. There's the 12 colors in set. Now, oh, these are 11 colors plus you get the titanium white, which again was useful to make cerulean. I'm sure it would be useful to make some, pastel versions of colors. So the other thing though, and Cat's Art Picks just brought up a really good point. She says the brand looks pretty good, but it's too pricey. Now they do sell the smaller sets in the 1/2 ounce bottles, and the ones that I have are the ounce bottles. So these are the larger bottles. Let's bring that back over here. So those are your 1 ounce bottles. They sell these in 1/2 ounce, and I can show you the size comparison because I actually have one of their 1/2 ounce bottles in a different line. At least I did. Yeah, I do. Okay, I do. This is not Hydrus, but this is what the 1/2 ounce bottles look like. So this would be a 1/2 ounce bottle, and then there's an ounce bottle. Okay, so that's going to be the difference. If you get the set with the 1/2 ounces, of course it is going to be, it's less expensive, but it's not half as expensive. If that, that's why I chose the 1 ounce. But the caveat is, yes, they are more expensive, but if you like to work in liquid watercolor, or if this is something that you are interested in, these are light fast. So if you like to create work and light fast is something that is a concern for you, if you sell, if you sell your work, or you just want to make sure that your artwork is around for a very, very long time, these are light fast. So they're going to be more, they're going to be pricier than some things of watercolor, but definitely, I definitely recommend. Again, I'm going to go back to it one more time. I said I was going to leave it alone, but the one thing that bothers me is that ultramarine blue is not PB29. It's a mixture of phthalo blue and the violet PB19. So it's PB15, PB19 to make up ultramarine blue. And it's here. That still looks really dark. I painted this with the ultramarine blue. I'll say that with air quotes. It's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, it's no PB29, but we won't hold it against it. we'll let it go. We're letting it go. But a nice set with some split primary type colors, if we're going to fully accept that ultramarine. Of the 36 colors in the line, 19 of those are single pigments. So I think that's great. Set number 3, which I told you about in the beginning, that one has the most single pigment colors. I think if you grabbed that set and tossed in the phthalo blue, you'd have a wonderful set to paint with without having to get all 3 sets, unless, you know, like me, you had full set syndrome and decide to dive right in. But you know, that's neither here nor there. I am not going to shame nor condone full set syndrome. Whether you have it or you don't is fine. All right, so taking my Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white, absolutely, that would be a wonderful Christmas gift. Right here where I had that dry brush that happened, I'm just going to add a little bit in there. And work that wave. It's not wanting to come off so well. I think I need just a little bit of water. Even with a little bit of water, it is still very much opaque. I'm just going to put a little bit in. And brighten that up. So it looks like that wave has just crashed. And maybe it's kind of fizzling out over there. You can add some more wherever you want. And catch right along the shore. Right, break up some of that line. If I didn't like how that line was, I could just break a little bit of that up. I can leave some of the brown showing through in spots. But you see how opaque that bleed proof white just goes right over. Put some of that like foam on the sand. Using just the tip of my brush. And again, see, this is that number 6 round. I don't need to go for that number 2. Rarely now. When I first started, oh my gosh, like details. When I painted this fish that I shared with you guys, just know that all these little dots and stuff, that was definitely a number 2 round. I wouldn't use that now. Now I would just use my number 6. But I still love that guy. That was one of my favorite things. Like that was like I think that was the very first, this is the very first watercolor painting that I did that I was like, wow, like I really like that. I really like it. And yeah, I just loved the way it came out. But it is fantastic when we have those moments, you know, especially when we're trying something new, and watercolor was very new to me then. And suddenly it just clicks and it works. You can also use it in like, just using the very tip, just putting like some sparkles out there in the water. Trying to be random and not let my brain start making patterns on me. Maybe there's a wave that's kind of rolling in right there. Maybe right here too. Yeah, we got one wave breaking out there. And maybe a little bit right here. All right. So, oh, thank you, Rob. I loved it. It was just like, it was something that I had seen that is not my, that is not 100% my original design. Like I said, that was when I was learning. And I just wanted to paint that on the card. I had seen this fish and I thought, I want to paint that. And so, yeah. That was my rainbow trout jumping out of the water. And that was just my way of doing the water. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So there's your, again, bleed proof white. You'll see me use it so many times. I definitely have it linked below. Highly recommend. Just a quick seascape. And look at that sky. Our cerulean blue mixed up beautifully with the phthalo blue and a touch of that titanium white. So there we go. There's that. I hope you guys have enjoyed hanging out today. I always do. I was worried today that I wasn't going to be able to hang out with you and things, you know, would get crazy. They did. It was crazy this morning. So there's our set number 1. So again, if you would like me to go more in depth, I'm probably going to go over set number 2 and set number 3 so that we can see them all. If you missed it, I shared all the colors for all the sets at the beginning and their pigments. So you could kind of make a choice for which one is right for you. I recommend these. It's fun. I got my start in watercolor with liquid watercolors and I don't regret it. I can say that going to half pans and 2 paint was way easier after having started with the liquid watercolors. It was a little challenging when I first began. But you know, luckily I don't let those things discourage me. And it's like challenge accepted. And I just want to really dive in and I conquer that medium. And watercolor, I still haven't stopped discovering new things that I love about watercolor and watercolor medium. Oh, I'm sorry, Cat's Art Picks. You asked me that earlier. Have I tried the, did you say Winsor Newton metallic watercolors? If that was the brand, no, I haven't. If that was the brand, no, I have not yet. I don't have any of those. I know. But I don't have any of those. That is one that I don't have. I don't have a lot of Winsor Newton. In fact, I have the Winsor Newton Cotman ones that I've shared. And the only Winsor Newton professional watercolor I have is my Potter's Pink because I didn't like Daniel Smith's. But that's only the Potter's Pink. Only one is dry. So I don't know about right out of the tube. So yes, Winsor Newton. No, I haven't tried those yet. So, all right. Well, I had a lot of fun. There's how our colors traveled in a wet and wet wash. And whoa. Here are our colors all swatched out once again. And yeah. And there was our fun little painting. I enjoy. You guys are going to get that, right? You're going to get, chances are it'll be a fast landscape or a seascape because those are my go-to because I love to paint them. And I like how that one came out. All right. If you enjoyed this and you're still watching me, thank you so much for still being here. Please hit that thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll get notified when Monday's video comes out. You're not going to want to miss how I created those blocks. So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much to my patrons and to my mods, Tara and Joseph. Their links are in the description below. Definitely check out their channels. If you're watching this on the replay, pretty soon I'm going to pop another video up right about there that you might like to watch next. So until next time, my friends, keep creating and I'll see you in a video real soon. Bye, guys.